The prospect of a full-scale debt cancellation program to lighten the financial strain on Nigeria, Ghana, and other African economies has been rejected by the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. In his remarks at the ongoing 2023 World Bank Group-IMF annual meetings in Marrakech, Morocco, Abebe Selassie, the IMF's Director for Africa, asserts that since local creditors account for 50% of the region's debt, any discussion of the debt cancellation must be handled carefully. In his remarks on the theme, in pursuit of stronger growth and resilience, at the IMF summit, Selassie insisted that there is no super magic to wave away the country's debts. The IMF chief noted that there should be a country-specific dialogue on how to reschedule the debts. Well, joining us now to talk about the IMF's refusal to waive all of Nigeria's debt is Africa's Director for Policy and Research, Ndongo Sylla, who is in Marrakesh, Morocco. He's joining us for an expert's perspective on this. Thank you very much, Ndongo, for your time. Abebe Selassie, the IMF Director, as you just heard there, is proposing country-specific discussions and programs on how to renegotiate the debts of African countries like Ghana and Nigeria. What peculiarities would you suggest to help Nigeria restructure in its debt restructuring negotiations?
Well, in fact, the situations are obviously different from one country to another. And in each country, it is necessary to distinguish the treatment of debt denominated in foreign currency and the part of the debt that is denominated in domestic currency, because these are two different forms of debts that are subject to different dynamics. The case of Ghana is different from the case of Nigeria because Ghana has already defaulted on its debt. But the thing is, the better way to deal with, debt restructuring is to have all the creditors on the table. That means bilateral creditors, and also private creditors, Eurobond holders. But that has proved very difficult in the current period. But what have to be said also is that, generally speaking, the debt stock denominated in foreign currency owed by what the World Bank calls the low and middle income countries, there are 136 of it. If you exclude China, Russia, and India, it's 133. Their debt stock denominated in foreign currency in 2020 was 2.6 trillion US dollar. That is less than the federal debt of Canada. So that means that if the global north wants to cancel the public and publicly guaranteed debt stock of these countries, that is possible. That's not an issue of affordability. That's a political issue.
Quite interesting the way you put it. According to data from Nigeria's Debt Management Office, Nigeria's entire debt stock as of June 30 this year was 113.4 billion US dollars. Sylla, what do you consider to be the main cause of high debt for a country like Nigeria?
The notion of high debt is really relative. If you take, for example, the countries which is the most indebted in the world is Japan, 260% of GDP debt. Sovereign debt represents 260% of GDP. Yet Japan will never default on his debt, and Japan controls interest rates on the sovereign debt. This is monetary sovereignty. That means that the level of the debt does not matter as long as the debt is denominated in domestic currency, as long as the central bank has the control over the interest rates in its domestic currency, and as long as the debt is targeted to improve productive capacities. But talking generally of high debt level does not make much economic sense. In the case of Nigeria, what would be important is to have much more targeted forms of public spending. So that means that whenever the government borrows money in Naira, the money has to be spent in activities that will grow the economy, that will grow the productive capacities of Nigeria. And for example, there is a paradox in the Nigerian economy that it's an oil producer country that also imports refined oil. And this has obvious economic effects, namely through the exchange rate that could, decrease in times of crisis. So that means that whenever the debt is used wisely, it's not an economic matter. The thing is to have the debt in domestic currency and to spend it wisely.
But interesting, Ndongo, Sylla, you've made some very interesting comments there. You're saying it's not a question of whether the debt can be cancelled or waived. It's about a political question. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.